welcome to the first afternoon session, and this is Cary, our professor in schools, and she'll be here to go through the presentation with you. Don't forget to take pictures, please. But also, do remember after this we'll go back to the break, and this break is our onion ring cook-off, so be prepared to make some decisions. And welcome, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's humbling to do this for me. It makes me nervous, but Mary asked me to share with you some things that we're doing in Jessamine County to integrate different subject matters into culinary and culinary into those areas. And I taught middle school 17 years and then went to the high school and taught high school 13 years. And in both settings, there were people who would work with me if I asked. And you kind of have to be brave and ask, or have friends that are brave and ask you to work with them. But today I'd like to share two main things with you. How we have integrated our areas, and we have not done it perfectly. There's room for correction and change, but that's one thing I'd like to share. Then I'd like for you, if you'd like to share some things, just do a quick share with a partner, share some things that you've done, and then take us a couple of minutes to do that. And then the second thing I'd like to share with you is the food science and dietary curriculum that the AP chemistry teacher, and I work with the State Department on at the state level in Kentucky. And we have email address, or not email, but links for you, website links where you can go and get this information, look at it, make it yours.
Is that the one on the board?
That is the integration of our chemistry into culinary and culinary into chemistry. And I could not pull it up before I got here because the site was down. So I emailed the lady this morning and got it. She sent it. I emailed her at 6:30 and she had it back to me by 6:45. So I had to write that one up there for you, and I'll tell you about that in just a few minutes. At the middle school level, we were big into writing portfolios at that time when I was there. How long has that been? That kind of dates me, doesn't it? But some fun things that we did, and some things that you might be able to incorporate into your program. We worked with math to do predictions, and we talked about what is the purpose of ingredients in a recipe. For example, flour provides structure. Water or liquids help those dry ingredients hold together. And given that information, the students predicted how much flour they would need to add to their Play-Doh recipe to actually make Play-Doh. They made it. They wrote about what they had predicted, what they had to add, why they had to add it, and what those ingredients did. The only thing I was responsible for was their culinary content, their food content. Their English teacher did not want me correcting their grammar. Okay, they did that. We worked together on that, and that went into their writing portfolio. So we talked about the function of foods, or the function of ingredients in foods, and they made predictions. They talked about those predictions in math, and that killed two birds with one stone. We were able to get a portfolio piece completed, and we were able to integrate the curriculum. I have found media center specialists or librarians or whatever you call them to be one of my best resources. I worked with that person at the middle school level, and then our AP chemistry teacher is also our media center specialist, and she has helped me unbelievably, and you're going to see how she's done that here in just a little bit. But they're able to help us with research, and in our system, we have research information published. Okay, it used to be in a 3-ring folder. Now it's online form, but they can help us with the research content. They may research careers, okay, or ingredients in pizza, okay, but they're able to help our kids with the research component. We work with the culinary component. The English teachers, once again, work with the writing component, and you've produced a piece. It's not that difficult. It takes one thing that none of us have: time. And I'm going to say at the beginning and say it at the end, we at East Jessamine High School were asked to give our input on things that we'd like to see in a new principal. And time to work with interdisciplinary content was one thing I said. Okay, what happened with that? It probably went, out one ear and out, in one ear and out the other. I do not know. But if they want us to work and have a strong program throughout the curriculum, we have to have time. Most of the time that was spent with Melanie and I working was our own time. Late hours, late hours, late hours. And that's not good for you, it's not good for your family. But just to be honest with you, that's pretty much where the time came from for us. And you'll see why here in a little bit. It was productive more than just with curriculum. At the high school level, we've been able to push our interdisciplinary curriculum out, or integrated, or across the curriculum, whatever term you want to call it. We've been able to push that out a whole lot more. Generally what we take is the hot topic of the day. Project-based learning is, for us in Kentucky, the hot topic of the day. And we take those topics and enter into those with, well, how can I work with this group or that group? We all have very tight curriculum, and we are all, including us, having to take state tests to show what we taught our kids in that curriculum. So everybody's very protective of that. And I have found science teachers to be the easiest for us in Jessamine County school system to work with. Now, our other family consumer science teachers are able to, depending on what their curriculum is, math might be good for them. If they're teaching in the pathway of consumer and family sciences, or math fits in with that. If in Kentucky, if you do not have the knowledge in, it won't come to my head at the moment, interest rates and calculating those kinds of things, you're not going to do well on that test, on that state test. But although we know culinary is very, very heavy in math, there's no one that really wants to take us on because it's really not covered in the curriculum. We have begged and pleaded to just do a culinary math class, but our board has not, or our principals haven't picked up on that yet, or let us do that. That would be wonderful if we could do that, but we haven't got that one done yet. But science has been super good for us to work at, or work with. In Jessamine County, my classes are very, very heavy with students with special needs. So working with the special ed teachers has been a blessing for me. We are able to incorporate student use in our greenhouse. We work with our science teachers to develop the greenhouse. Melanie Stanford is in charge of our greenhouse at East Jessamine High School, even though she's at another school. And she helps me keep things growing, keep things working. Well, no, she doesn't help me, she does it. And our kids attempt to keep them growing and produce the product. We use them in our classroom, in the culinary classroom, and in our special ed classrooms, some of them actually produced food products and they use them there as well. And we use those students to help us and work with Melanie to take care of the greenhouse. This year, with a project-based learning project, one of our English teachers, working with some resource students, they interviewed my food students about concerns they had about food that was served in the cafeteria. And I don't know about your state, but our cafeteria workers' hands are tied tight with what they can feed the students. And when our students look at whose fault that is, they think it's the cafeteria workers' fault. Well, together as a group, they came up with questions to ask our cafeteria manager and the lady from central office. The Resource English kiddos interviewed those two people, and their eyes were open to the fact that there were a whole lot of people that were responsible for those guidelines, not even at the local level. They came back and shared that with our students, and that was eye-opening for our food students as well. Also part of that project-based learning, most of those students have been in one of my classes before. So occasionally when we were doing some labs, they would come in and work side by side my students, my regular food students. And they would look at specific preparation skills and how things were put together, and then they would go back and discuss that in their English class. And their final project, and they did a lot of other things that weren't related to our class with their food-related research. And then they wrote about that as their final project in their final activity for their project-based learning. I know some people are going to have trouble with those other kids coming in. Have they had all the safety? That kind of thing. It worked good for us. Okay, it was an integrated activity that worked good for us. Science teachers are one of our best resources in Justin County. We worked to produce a grant that we purchased a lot of equipment with. It was very specific what we had to purchase. But things like a doer to store liquid nitrogen. As a family consumer science teacher, I'm not real comfortable with using that. Science teachers, much more comfortable with using that. So we would combine those classes, work with those. Erin Spears is a science teacher in the building who helped me with that. Okay. Not all your science teachers are going to be comfortable. I think Molly told me I was on my own with that one. I was going to have to find somebody else to help. Okay. Definitely interdisciplinary use there. I did not know how to use that. Had to have a science person help me with that.
So what did you all do?
He would just, well, he pretty much came up with, I said, here's some fun things that I've heard that we can do. And he just came up with some activities. We kind of combined the kids, talked about it, worked with it. He shared it. He used the University of Kentucky as a, so you might want to go to your university or have your science teacher, especially the young ones who've just come out of school, work with their university professors. He went back and said, where's a good place to buy liquid nitrogen? And actually, when he found that place, he was getting such a small amount, they gave it to him. He didn't even have to purchase it. But it needs to be used in a very short period of time. So you need to have a plan, and it needs to be used quickly. And the kids just enjoy seeing something actually take place that they might have seen on television or they might have heard about, or someone may have gone to a restaurant and experienced food created in that way.
Can you give examples of something
like the ice cream and liquid, the ice cream made with the KitchenAid, with liquid nitrogen. Just dropping a leaf of basil in there and it, coming out crispy and that kind of thing. Thank you for asking questions. It's hard to sit through this after lunch. I'm glad I'm talking and not sitting where you are, because it's much easier for me to stay away. But blending of classes, I worked with our science teacher who taught food science one year, and we blended our classes, and she would work with the science end of preserving, food preservation, and we canned and pickled anything you can think of, from cucumbers to pickled pig's feet. Let me say, don't do the pickled pig's feet. I had to drive over Lexington to find them, and then we really didn't like them after we got them done. Just buy them on the shelf at Kroger or wherever your grocery store is. They were too hard to do. But the process is really what we want our kiddos to learn, or in our county, that's what we want our kids to learn. And food preservation is a trend that is used in our our industry right now. So we chose to work together on that. We might, one thing we did, she read some books on use of the environment. I know you've all heard of Food Inc. We showed that. We talked to them about, the science end of the food production. That's a little old, a little dated, what's happened between that time and this time. You just have to blend your curriculum when you have the opportunity, when you can. Social studies is not the easiest thing for us to integrate in our county. Not because they're very willing to work with, and one of our teachers I worked with at the middle school as well, but use resources that you possibly have. Cooking Up History has some wonderful examples that you can use if your folks are studying the Civil War. There's a section in here on the Civil War, and you can integrate those areas where you have the opportunity with your teachers. I can pass this around and you can look at that if you want. Melanie ordered for me, as the Media Center Specialist, she wrote a grant, got these books. Kentucky Sweets and the Culinary History of Kentucky. I know you probably aren't from Kentucky. There are a few of us from Kentucky, but these are great resources that give you the history. I'm sure there's some written for your state or where you're from. You may be familiar with them. You can look them up and see. This can give you the information that you can use to incorporate the culinary history with the history of your state and things that happened, why they happened, why we cured food, maybe why we made pies out of crackers instead of apples. Okay.
There's also the President's Favorite Cookies recipe.
Oh, yeah.
And in there, they talk about the history of that particular president. But then it's also very interesting to look at the change in how recipes have modified over the years from the 1700s into more current times, like with the use of molasses early on. And that's a good point of time where you can, in your foods class, then be talking about processing and where does molasses actually come from. And then seeing how our tastes and how we use sweetener different over time. And that was an easy connection to make, I think, with social studies.
And that's covered in here. Yeah, the lack of sugar and sugar chest and stored sugar and buying sugar and 10-pound block and that kind of thing. As I was looking through this book, I saw the Buffalo Trace Distillery information. Now I know you've all heard about that. Yeah, we only make the news for bad things sometimes, but we have to teach employability skills. And we want our students to be honest so they can keep a job. Okay, we know when we think of Kentucky, we think of bourbon. And as we teach those employability skills, maybe in marketing, if you are teaching in school that has some career and tech school, or you're just teaching those employability skills in your class. Okay, this will be something we use as an example probably. Okay, Who would have thought they could have gotten by with stealing hundreds of barrels of bourbon from Buffalo Trace? And who would have thought they could have gotten by with stealing very expensive bourbon, very rare, expensive bourbon from there? Okay, it's all over the news, national news. Okay, it's not an ethical thing. It's not going to work. You're not going to keep your job. You're probably not going to stay out of jail if you do it. There's an example that we can use, and it's part of our history, and it's sad. And in Kentucky, we tend to teach Kentucky culinary history around the Derby, do hot browns and that kind of thing. And this is kind of touchy in our county, but your marketing or your math people might want to help you with the wagering part of that, or not, don't know, okay? We might be able to slide by with that now. A few years ago we couldn't. But those are some things that you can do around fun activities or fun seasons in your state and kind of incorporate those things. Okay, here are those if you want to flip through those. How we got to this point, really, how we started working together. Melanie had worked with a lot of family consumer science teachers over the years, so she was well trained when I got there. Okay, but we wanted culinary equipment. We wanted a commercial kitchen. We had written grants. We weren't successful. Our state chose to use those Perkins funds that had come back to them and what they called reserve Perkins funds. And you were forced, if you wanted those funds, you had to work with a core teacher. Well, I'd already worked with Melanie, so she was my target. Okay? Now, we didn't know what was in store for us. It took us probably 8 years from the time we started writing grants to the time we got our culinary kitchen in, our commercial kitchen in. And that was a nightmare that I'm not even going to go through with you.
But we got it.
We got it.
We got it.
We got it. I've taught it a year and I'm retiring. But what we had to produce was curriculum. And it is online for us to share with you. And it is not anything that I could have produced on my own. I came up with the idea. Melanie added the chemistry information. Okay. In writing the grant, we came up with the idea. But family consumer science or culinary or even career tech people weren't reading it. Industry people were reading it. We weren't successful. We didn't know why. We had all the right education terms in there. We had people check it, but we kept getting denied. Somebody finally said, industry's reading it. We're like, well, duh. We don't understand their language. They don't understand ours. So we'd come up with the idea. We'd put it on paper. We'd have my husband read it. He'd say, what does this mean? We'd go, blah, 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 blah. And he'd say, well, you need to change it to this. He knew what it meant, and then we didn't know what it meant. But industry people were reading our grants. We were writing it for education people. So when you produce those grants, you spend hours writing them. Know who's reading them. Don't be like us. Don't waste 4 years writing grants. And the wrong person, you didn't know who your audience was. Know who your audience is before you start writing. Now, this folder is huge, and I barely got here with this stuff. So I pulled out one subject, or one lesson, and that's leavening agents, so you can look at it.
Is that what that is up on the board?
Yes,
Okay.
and this is the Bohr Moodle site. And if you try it right now, you might not get in. Because I could not get into it to write it down. But I contacted one of our tech people this morning, and she's contacting somebody to make sure it's back up and going. It's all there. You can flip through here and you can see the lessons here. You can see how detailed the content is. We've spent a lot of time writing it. Please use it. Okay. Just to give you You want to add anything about that, Melanie? Okay, all right.
Can you just kind of list some of the items
Yes.
that are in there, just to kind of.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Snacks and fats, organic foods, leavening agents, sugar substitutes, chemical pie, you probably know about that one. Making cheese, food service careers, food additives, and molecular gastronomy. So we tried to pull in current subjects, and we tried to do a wide range. And any other questions about that? Okay, it's coming around to you. Art teachers working with the art kids to critique
The
plating.
pottery kids made plates, like they got to design their own plates, whatever, bowls. And then they paired up with my culinary kids, and we had to come up with with the art kid, we collaborated to make a meal that would work on that plate. So like if the kid made a light colored white plate, you know, you won't want to put Alfredo on it. So for color, and like I told them, we ended up ordering a black squidding pasta off the internet, and you know, just they'd never even heard of that. We thought it was going to taste like fish. And, you know, it was just the whole learning experience. But instead of me just sitting up there talking about plating, it made it a lot more fun. So, and then we had the art teachers and some other teachers judge who's looked the best, and then they got to eat. And of course, they're happy. So.
Okay, I heard about making cheese with chemistry person, and that's fantastic. We've worked on that before. And one thing, my kids really didn't like the cheese that they made, so we do like a soft ricotta, and then we'd use it the next day in a lemon ricotta muffin. That's wonderful. They didn't know they were ricotta cheese then. So those are some things. And one thing that Melanie and I did that I didn't share, a culinary camp together. We actually had some kids that stayed after school. We tried to pull kids that were strong in food science areas and strong in culinary, and we were trying to plant that seed for food science. Yum Foods is in Louisville, you know, an hour and a half up the road. They're begging for food science majors. That's not a family consumer science major, but we still like our kids to go into it. And they're having to take like kids that have, or students that have beef majors or pork majors and train them to do what they want them to do. And we'd like nothing better than Jessamine County kids to take those jobs at Young Foods. Not in the county, but they're still in the state. And we want them to have good, productive lives, make good money, and maybe support us when we get out. I don't know. Take good care of us when we're in the nursing home. But there's just lots and lots of things that you can do. From us working together on the curriculum, the state pulled us out to help work with food science and dietetics pathway. And this is a new pathway in the state of Kentucky. And some of our dietetics people who teach at the college level got a little testy with this. But we, once again, are encouraging our students to look at other fields that they can work in. And food science and dietetics are fields that our kids do not go into. And a lot of family consumer science teachers are family consumer science teachers because they didn't cut it in dietetics. I hate to say that, but that's the bottom line. But as high school teachers, if we had given them the skills that they needed at the high school level to do dietetics at the college level, they may have been more successful. And as high school teachers in Jessamine County, that is our goal, to help our kiddos be successful, whether it's in college or if it's in that right after high school job, or if it's just working at McDonald's during high school or after graduation. Now, this information is on your sheet. It's the Kentucky Department of Education link. So you're going to go there, then you can go to Career and Technical Education, and I believe you go to Family Consumer Science, Articulation, that might be it. You've got it there, and then you click on this. The pathway would be food nutrition, advanced foods, or you might call yours culinary 1 or whatever. Food science, dietetics. That's our pathway. Now, Melanie fought really, really hard at the state level for AP chemistry or AP biology to be one of the electives that they could interweave for one of those. Why? Because that pulled in those AP kids. Okay?
A lot
Now,
of who are interested in going into the medical field, you know, from Mary's training last in the fall, I mean, culinary medicine, I mean, that's a moving
Huge.
forward. So that's helping you bring people into the family and consumer sciences, food, and other. Also by having the food science, nutritional food science and dietetics pathway, giving that introduction, that it's not all AP classes, but yet the fact that you took one or two of those AP classes, it's gonna count, and they all have to be career ready. So that's one course in that career ready pathway, and they're not having to necessarily take an extra one in order to become a completer.
Cary,
yeah.
I have a question. So when they go through with that pathway, are they going, is it or food science or dietetics? How is that working?
It's one pathway, and there are two industry certification exams associated with it. They can take both classes, they can take one, they have to have 4 classes in that particular pathway in order to be a completer. So if they had taken either an AP biology or an AP chemistry, foods, advanced foods, and only food science, they'd still have the 4 classes. Or if they did the dietetics. Now this past year, I had ones who had taken foods and then nutritional food science and dietetics. They passed the certification exam for both the food science and the dietetics, or it's called nutrition, food, and wellness.
Correct.
Test is actually called. They passed both of them, so now they're considered career ready in terms of the state and the school getting.
Career ready.
what?
Career
For what?
in the state of Kentucky, you have to be college and career ready.
Both.
Okay, what does that mean? That means that you have passed tests that show your college and
And you have
career
some
ready
kind of
for
degree.
math, English, science,
And they
social
received an
studies.
industry certification
and your
in fundamentals of
pathway.
food science. An industry certification.
So
in-
how does this articulate, I'm guessing, to the University of Kentucky?
That is our next, this is our first of a pilot.
Oh,
The
okay,
That is what
University of
we're now
Kentucky
working
is
on.
not super cooperative with articulation.
okay.
But our community colleges are very. Moorhead State University has worked with us. Eastern has worked with us well. And I'm talking about broad, I'm talking about more than just culinary and
Right.
foods, foods related. But our State Department of Education, our career and tech, family consumer science person, Kayla Godby, or our past, Leslie Slaughter, has set up those articulations for us. And if you go to the website, you can see those articulations, like Sullivan. Sullivan, if they pass the Kentucky School Standards Test, they can opt out of, one of their classes at Sullivan. And it tells you what class that is. If they pass ServSafe, they have to sit in the class, but they don't have to pay to take it. But I'm assuming through that they teach not only ServSafe, but they teach some of how they want things done. So the kids can't totally opt out of it, but they have to sit through and they do not have to pay for it. And it's done. Okay? Now, not all, our community colleges make them take ServSafe. They won't let them opt out. But if they've already taken it, it's not all new material. They know temperatures, they know that material. So that's helpful also. But when we wrote this material, we knew that we were going to have to do state certification tests. They weren't written, so we went to the American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences and did their pre-pack test. And one thing that we found in that, and that is that they have broken down all the competencies and the components that your students need to know. They're here. If you want your students to pass, they have to know this information. If they don't know all this information, they're not going to pass this. And that might not be important for you in your state, but it's very important for us in our state. Because our schools get points for everything that they accomplish. That's today. Tomorrow will probably be different. Ma'am?
That's our funding. Perkins too.
Yes, and it
Because
affects.
more industry certifications you have.
Yes, and it affects our Perkins funding as well. But that's probably determined at our state level, okay? And your state may be a little different. But if you're wanting to put this material together, this is a great resource for that. We have that connected to the state website. The only thing that's not connected there are kind of how we laid out our units. And I'll pass this around, and I do not know why Kayla doesn't have it there, but she doesn't. I'll pass this around, and if you want to just take a picture of it or look at it or kind of get a feel for it, you're welcome to. But Melanie taught this for the first year. This past school year, she taught for the first time. And following the guidelines, most of her students, not all, but most of her students passed. And not all of those students who passed were AP students. Okay? Some of them were just average students who really didn't like to study, who really didn't like to learn, and really just kind of signed up for it because they first thought they were going to get to eat. Okay, then they got there and it's a little more in depth. So, this can be done with just average students.
Yeah.
Do you guys get looked down upon if you have a high failure rate?
Do what?
If you have a high failure rate?
No, we don't get we don't get punished or.
Not especially when you compared it to the nation.
Right.
Which is a 1% on fundamentals of food science. And we had 55, so I was okay with that one.
Yeah.
And then the nutrition, food and wellness, which goes what's going. They have the nationwide, it's a 44% pass rate. Ours was 70, so I was fine. I was happy. First time going through, but when I did dietetics in the second semester, I took the pre-pack information, made a template of each of the competencies, domains, and standards associated with it. So when we did our notes, those notes went right in under that standard. So as we got to the point where we were about a month out before they were the end of the school year and the end of the semester, that's when we went back and we said, okay, let's see, what haven't we covered? It was very easy to see because that was, where the notes, and then you just hit those topics at that point. But you do have to stay right up with what the curriculum is. And I didn't have but one student who had taken a foods class before, because it was the first year it was being offered, and so they just put people in it, some people in there. So I found out that a lot of people didn't know anything about egg whites, and that you don't put any yolk in there. Well, there's just a little bit, and I'm like, a little bit? No. So, because I didn't know that. So I ran into some of those kind of issues, but overall, they take the test at the end of that class. But I was always used to teaching to a test anyway, like an AP, and it's a valid test. If it's one that I see a purpose to, you can easy enough. And I didn't think it lost any creativity at all because you give the students choice on what it is they want to do, how do they want to modify a recipe. They choose the recipe that they want to modify, to make it healthier. Now, they didn't have too much choice when it came to the food science part because they had to, they could choose which variation they wanted of 6. That kind of thing. But it is important if you decide to do that, though, you have got to pay attention to exactly what the pre-pack says.
They've laid all that out for us. And I know that we want to teach what we like to teach, what we enjoy teaching. But if our kids have to pass that pre-pack test or that industry cert test, we have to teach what they've laid out for us. And you know that. That's not news to you. But for some of our teachers, their kids aren't successful, and then they complain about why their kids aren't successful. And then when we look at what they taught and what they were supposed to teach, it was 2 different things. In the state of Kentucky, for Melanie to teach that curriculum and for our kids to get credit for it underneath family consumer science, foods and nutrition, or food science and dietetics, she has to work with the family consumer science, foods and culinary person on that. She has to, and she's calling us, emailing us every day. What about this? What can I do with this? So we definitely collaborate. But for her to be able to teach that, she has to collaborate with us. And it's very hard, I know, for you to let go of your curriculum and let somebody else teach your curriculum. And we are scared to death we're going to lose our curriculum, okay, by letting someone else do it. But it has been a deep, enriching experience for us as family consumer science teachers to work with her and work with the other science people that we have. So take that chance. It's scary, it's frightening, but you need to take that chance. Just as we kind of pull up a little bit here, I would encourage you to select someone that you can work with in your building, okay? Understand that you will have mountains to climb and you will fall off of them. We were so unsuccessful, and then we wrote $250,000 worth of grants, and our school system wouldn't put the equipment in. It was not a good year for me. It was not a good year. It set in storage for a year and a half. I was so disappointed. And my last words to them when I met with the career and tech principal, it was not his fault. And the central office people and the maintenance man, I said, okay, we're turning in this last bit of grant. If the board's not going to pay for it, the superintendent and the money man, Timber Master, do not need to sign this. Because when they sign this, they're saying that they're paying for the installation. Okay, that fell on deaf ears. But Dexter Knight, the amazing man he is, he worked it out. Okay, so even when you've been successful and you think you've got it, you don't always have it in your head. We talked about not only being in charge of the greenhouse, our ag teachers wrote the grant to get the greenhouse. They moved off to another school. The greenhouse was sitting empty. So when we wrote this grant, we incorporated the use of the greenhouse in it. Farm to table, kids learning how to raise that. We don't have chickens, we don't have fish, we just have a greenhouse, okay? But it's all we can handle at the moment. Please be willing to take risks, and when you fail, just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and go on. I cannot tell you how many times we failed, how many times things didn't go successful for us, how many times we tried things with the kids and it wasn't successful. And it took me forever to learn. When I moved from middle school to the high school, things didn't have to be perfect. I could let the kids experiment. I could let the kids try. And if we failed, it was okay. We laughed about it, we cleaned it up. Sometimes we threw all the pans away and started again. Making fondant was just a disaster in the beginning.
That's because in science, we learn more from what goes wrong than what goes right. So it's okay.
Yeah, we talked to you about working around the trends like project-based learning, farm to table, pick those things. If you're trying to get money, trying to get your administrators to let you work together, trying to give them or get you time so that you can work together, talk to them in a language they understand with current trends. Work with folks that have teaching areas that are similar to yours. If the University of Kentucky had taught me chemistry related to foods or related to fabrics, it'd been much easier for me to learn. I don't know who wanted to, hurt one another the worst. My chemistry teacher at UK or myself to my chemistry teacher. It made no sense to me. Plus, I left Jackson County schools without a strong math background. That's a failure for chemistry. I'd like to encourage you to do your best. That's all we can do. Make sure you have time for your family. That honored man I'm married to, Daryl York, he's been shortchanged many times. Some of you know him because I spent more time at school than I should have. He spent many a night helping Melanie and I get things finished. Some nights we thought we were going to kill one another. Work together to build in planning time. If you want to do culinary across the curriculum, every time someone's listening from central office, every time you get, or wherever your main people are, every time you get an opportunity to share, tell them you need time.
Feed 'em.
You need Do what?
Feed them.
Feed them, yes,
That
that
goes
works
the
too.
furthest.
Well, you've done that before.
Yeah, we have bribed with food. I tell people,
That works more than
Big
anything.
presentation, we
I
brought
bribe my
food.
students, I bribe administrators, I will, I have, and I will continue. Make sure you love what you do. If you don't love what you do something else. Walking away from a program I built is hard. But we're living independence. So, we've got great people coming behind us to pick up the pieces. They're young, they're energetic, they'll do a great job. Questions that you might have? We'll let Lonnie answer. You have to do what works for you. This has worked for us. Hopefully, it's been helpful for you to gain a little insight. These websites that you have the Kentucky State Department of Education website, all of our curriculum's there. Some is better than others. Take whatever you want. That's the best thing teachers can do. Share still from one another. The little site.
Don't go out of your way to try to make something up.
Right.
You know, you'll find the natural places where things can fit in, and that's what you want to do. And that's when true learning is going to come in, and enjoyment for you as well as the person you're collaborating with and the students. You just have to find the natural fit. Don't artificialize it. It won't work.
But one other thing, the culinary camp was a super kind of jumping board, springboard for us to get into working together. And that's another thing we wrote a grant for in the state of Kentucky to do. So look for grants to help you with funding. Your state may have some, may not. Use Perkins money when you can. Just use it right. You know, there's all kinds of restraints on that. But I wish you luck as you use your time next school year in working on incorporating ideas with other subject areas. Pick someone in your building that you can work with and jump in the deep end and just swim till you get it done.
Cary, can you talk a few minutes about the culinary camp?
Yes. We had to, well, we didn't have to, but we chose to write a grant that selected non-traditional students. Now, in culinary, the non-traditional student we selected was females. There were some males that came, but we didn't actually write that up in our numbers or anything. We just didn't restrict it to them. But that's how we chose that non-traditional student, because they're non-traditional in the culinary role, food service, and they're non-traditional in doing well in chemistry. So we worked with our administration to handpick some children, some students that were in culinary fields, but were showing weak test scores in science. So we sent invitations to all those kids. But we opened it up to whoever wanted to come. So we, I think we did making cheese,
Science behind the marshmallow.
made marshmallows with them, and there's the science behind that. The chemical pie and the science behind that. And I worked with the food preparation part and the food part of that, and Melanie worked with them on the chemistry behind that. And we used lessons out of that curriculum right there.
And we created some others.
So, our goal with that was to try to encourage some food science people.
Now, was that during the summer or during the school year?
It was after school, because that grant had to be used by,
Before school was out.
yeah, like the 1st of June or something.
And we make sure that we requested transportation as part of that
Oh,
grant
yes.
also. Because that was gonna be a barrier, and we didn't want there to be a barrier, so we had made a point of including the cost of transportation to get those kids back home.
And this was from the program?
Yes, it was Perkins money, it was through our State Department. And they're using Perkins money now. You know, it was how they chose to use that Perkins money. But it was a great experience for us. Yeah, we enjoyed it. The kids loved it. It was after school, hour and a half. We shoot them out to the bus, make sure they got on the bus. And that was a huge part of that, the bus transportation costs, but it allowed a lot of kids to come and that we've been able to. Thank you all so much. Thank you for
Thank
dealing with
you.
me as I got started. I was talking to you.